So you've tried to get an AI to write some code for you, right? You have this amazing idea in your head, but when you tell it to the AI, it feels like you're speaking a completely different language. And the code you get back, well, it just doesn't work. In this explainer, we're going to crack that code. We're going to figure out how to talk to AI so it actually builds what you want. And by the end, you'll have a whole new way of thinking that puts you back in the driver's seat.
Does this sound familiar? You're staring at the screen. Your big idea is perfectly clear in your mind, but that moment when you have to actually tell the AI what to do feels like hitting a brick wall. You've got the plan, but how do you turn that into code? Where do you even start?
That feeling of being stuck is so common. It really deserves its own name, the AI coding frustration. It's something pretty much everyone hits when they try to build something real with these new tools. So let's dig into exactly why that happens.
Okay, so you start with what seems like a totally reasonable request. You're direct, you're clear, you just tell the AI, make a sign-up feature. I mean, it's a standard part of almost any app out there, so it should be easy, right? Well, maybe not. Because what you get back is, well, it's kind of deceptive. At first glance, it looks like it works, but the second you try to change anything, or even just plug it into the rest of your app, the whole thing falls apart. It's like a hollow shell, not a solid piece of work, because the AI is just guessing at all the important details you left out. And here's the big twist. This isn't the AI's fault. These models are actually incredibly powerful. The problem is a total mismatch in how we're communicating. We're speaking one language, the language of goals, but the AI needs to hear another, the language of step-by-step instructions. All right, so let's dive deep into that communication gap, because understanding the huge difference between a requirement and an instruction is the absolute key to unlocking what these AI tools can really do for you. See, when you say make a sign-up feature, you're talking in requirements. You're describing what you want the final thing to be. It's the destination. But the AI doesn't work with just a destination. It needs a map to get there. The AI, on the other hand, runs on instructions. It needs to know how to build the thing, one piece at a time. It needs a detailed turn-by-turn roadmap, not just a picture of the finish line, because it doesn't have all the context and experience that a human developer does. So what does that actually look like? Well, on the left, you've got the requirement. Create a sign-up feature. Nice and simple, right? But on the right, you have the instructions. These are the specific questions that have to be answered before any code gets written. Like, what are the input fields? How do we check if they're valid? What should happen if it works? And what about if it fails? Here it is. This is probably the single best way to think about it. Just treat the AI like a brand new junior developer who's on their very first day. Trust me, this mental model is a game changer because it instantly makes you rethink how you ask for things. Think about it. You could tell a senior developer, hey, build a sign-up feature, and they'd just know all the little steps involved. But a junior developer, they'd come right back at you with all those questions we just saw. They need clear, specific, bite-sized tasks to get anything done right. And right now, the AI is that junior developer. Okay, so this brings us to the solution. It's a really powerful idea called the Development Instruction Unit. This is the practical tool that's going to let you translate your big vision into code that the AI can actually build without messing it up. So what exactly is a Development Instruction Unit? It's the smallest possible piece of work you can think of that has one and only one job. Think of it like a single Lego brick. You can't build a castle with just one brick, but if you have a clear plan and a bunch of single bricks, well, then you can build anything. So let's go back to our sign-up feature. Instead of one big, vague request, you break it down into these little units. Each one is a totally separate, crystal clear instruction. First, validate the email format. Second, check the password rules. Third, create the API call. Fourth, handle the success message. And fifth, handle the failure message. Each one is a single, achievable task. Okay, so the obvious question is, how small is small enough, right? How do you really know when you've broken a task down into a proper unit? Well, it turns out there's a super simple, kind of elegant test you can use. Here's the rule of thumb. Just try to describe the task out loud in one sentence. If you find yourself saying the words, and then, your instruction is still too big. For example, if you say, validate the email format, and then check if it's already in the database, nope, that's two separate units. The goal is to get to a point where there is no and then. So let's bring all this home. In this last section, we're going to see how this method of breaking down tasks puts you firmly back in command and how you can use it to really take control of the AI you're working with.
This is the fundamental shift right here. When you just throw a big plan at the AI, you're forcing it to guess about all the little details, and its guesses are almost always going to be wrong. But when you give it a series of small, clear instruction units, it stops guessing and starts executing your vision precisely. You know, the best part about all this? It doesn't mean you have to learn how to code. It means you have to learn how to think like a developer, to break a big problem down into its smallest logical pieces. You basically become a translator, converting your plan into a language the AI can understand perfectly. And this completely flips the script. You're no longer just a person with a vague wish. No, you are the architect, and you're carefully designing the blueprint piece by piece. The AI then becomes your builder, laying each brick exactly where you told it to. By shifting from these vague goals to precise instructions, you stop being a passenger, just hoping the AI drives you to the right place. You get to take the wheel. So the next time you sit down to build something with an AI, ask yourself, am I giving it a destination or am I giving it a roadmap? Because the answer to that question is going to determine who's really in charge of bringing your idea to life.
So you've got this killer app idea, right? But every time you try to explain it to an AI, it just falls flat. Sound familiar? Well, you're definitely not alone. And in this explainer, we are going to crack the code on how to get an AI to build the app you actually want.
Oh man, we have all been there. You ask for something simple, like a sign-up feature, and what you get back looks like it was designed in, I don't know, 1999? Or you ask for a to-do list, and it spits out a grocery list app. So what is going on? Is the AI just dumb? No, not at all. It's that we're not speaking its language. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, think about it like this. Imagine you're in a foreign country. You're dying for a coffee, but you don't speak the language. So you just kind of point at the menu and grunt. You'll probably get a coffee, sure, but it's almost guaranteed not to be the one you actually wanted, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening with AI. It's a communication breakdown. We just need to learn how to order properly.
And this, right here, this is the absolute core of the problem. See, we're so used to describing what we want. We need a sign-up feature. That's a requirement. But in AI, it doesn't work with requirements. It needs to be told how to build it. It needs a development instruction. You know, it's the classic difference between telling a contractor, hey, build me a house, versus handing them a detailed architectural blueprint. One gets you a shed, maybe. The other gets you your dream home.
All right, so how do we make that shift? How do we become the architect instead of just the person with the vague idea? Well, it is all about mastering that blueprint, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. I'm going to show you how to create the perfect instruction every single time.
Okay, so here it is, the secret weapon. It's called the Development Instruction Unit. I want you to think of it like a single Lego brick. You can't build a whole castle with just one brick, obviously, but you absolutely cannot build a castle without a whole bunch of them. So the game plan is to break down your massive app idea into these tiny, perfect, super manageable pieces.
And this is the magic formula, your 5-step checklist for every single one of those Lego bricks. If you can answer these 5 questions, I promise you, you will never get a confusing or useless chunk of code from your AI again. You have to give it the context, what tech stack are we even using, React, Python, and the task, what is the one single thing this code is supposed to do, what are the inputs and outputs, and super important, how does it handle failure cases? And finally, any constraints, like specific libraries or formats. See, it's like giving your AI a GPS with a precise street address instead of just yelling drive north and hoping for the best.
Okay, cool. So now we know how to make a perfect Lego brick. We've got a whole pile of them. But how do we actually put them together to build the castle? Because here's the thing. It's not just about having the right pieces. It's about putting them together in exactly the right order.
When we look at a finished app, we just see the final thing, this bundle of code. But that's not how an AI sees it. To an AI, it's a series of steps. It's kind of like the difference between looking at a finished, beautiful cake and actually reading the recipe, step by step. We need to start thinking like the chef, not just the person who gets to eat the cake.
Yeah, exactly. From an AI's perspective, a project isn't a thing. It's a flow of instructions. Your whole app is just a story, really. It's the story of every single command you've given it, told in the exact order you gave them. And just like any good story, the sequence of events, well, it matters. A lot.
And honestly, this is where almost everyone messes up. People try to build the roof before they've even laid the foundation. You can't just ask an AI to create a like button if you haven't even told it what a post is yet. It has no context. It's like trying to bake that cake by frosting the empty pan. It's just gonna be a mess. You have to follow the flow. First, the foundation, your project structure. Then the data. Then the individual UI components. After that, user interaction. And only then, at the very end, do you connect to things like APIs. And here's the thing, when you really get this, when you start thinking in terms of these tiny instructions and stacking them in the right order, everything changes. Something incredible happens. This is the moment you stop being a passenger and get in the driver's seat. You're not just vaguely hoping the AI takes you somewhere cool anymore. Nope. You're giving it precise, turn-by-turn directions to your exact destination. You know, this quote from the source material, it really hit me. This is the moment when the human, not the AI, becomes the center. And wow, I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? This isn't really about the AI at all. It's about you. It's about putting the power back in your hands, empowering you to take your ideas and actually make them real. So no more crossing your fingers and just hoping for the best. With this method, you stop being a requester and you become the architect. You design the blueprint, piece by perfect piece. The AI, it becomes your builder, an incredibly fast, efficient builder that executes your vision with precision. And when you work together like that, you can build literally anything you can imagine.
So my question for you is, what are you waiting for? Think about that big idea you've been kicking around. What is the very first development instruction for it? That first single Lego brick? Because defining that one tiny piece, that's not just the start of your project, it's the start of you becoming the architect. Now go build something amazing.
Okay, so what if I told you that you could build an entire app, a game, a tool, anything, not by writing code, but just by describing it? Just talking about what you want. Well, this isn't science fiction anymore. It's a real thing called vibe coding. And believe me, it is changing the game for creators everywhere. And this quote right here from Andre Karpathy, who is one of the absolute giants in the AI world, well, it just nails it. He said this back in 2023 in what sounded like some crazy far-off prediction is literally happening right now. Just think about that for a second. The most powerful programming language in the world isn't Python or JavaScript anymore. It's just English. $1 million. Just let that number hang in the air for a moment. This isn't just some random figure I pulled out of nowhere. It's a real number, and it represents the insane potential of this new way of building things. Yeah, that's the yearly revenue of a game built by a single person, a guy named Peter Levels, in just over 2 weeks, 17 days. And how did he pull it off? Not with a huge team or by slaving over thousands of lines of code. Nope. He did it by mastering this art of vibe coding, by telling an AI exactly what he wanted it to build. This is the promise we're talking about. It's huge. So you hear stories like that, and it sounds incredible, right? It feels like this amazing promise that anyone with a good idea can just become a developer overnight. But if it's really that simple, why aren't we all rolling in million-dollar apps? Because let's be honest for a second. When you or I actually try it, the reality can be, well, a little different. You sit down, you're excited, you have this great idea, you type your request into the AI, and the result is just a total mess. It's so frustrating, and it makes you feel like you must be missing some big secret. And you think you're being so clear. You say something simple, like, build me a login page. What could be clearer? But what you get back is a pile of junk code and endless error messages. Or you aim bigger, create a social media app, and you get this tangled web of stuff that doesn't even connect. It feels impossible. So what is going on here? Why is there this massive gap between what we want and what the AI gives us? This whole experience is so common, it needs its own name. Let's call it the AI reality check. It's that moment the AI completely fails, and you start thinking, this vibe coding thing is just a bunch of hype. But here's the secret. The problem isn't the AI. It's the way we're talking to it. This, right here, this is the single most important mindset shift you have to make. You are not talking to some all-knowing, all-powerful genius. You're talking to a junior developer. Now, it's a very fast, very capable junior developer for sure, but it's still junior. It can't read your mind. It can't just figure things out. It needs clear, specific, and most importantly, small tasks.
So instead of giving the AI a big, vague goal like make a login page, you have to break it down. You have to give it what the source material calls a development instruction unit. Now, that sounds super technical, but it's really a simple idea. It's the smallest possible piece of work that does just one single thing. So for that login page, you don't say make the page. You say create an email input field. Then you say create a password input field. Then create a submit button. One single thing at a time. You see? This is how we start speaking the AI's language. Vibe coding is really the art of translating your big, grand vision into a long series of tiny, super precise instructions. It's about feeding your junior developer, the AI, one perfect, bite-sized task at a time and letting it build your dream piece by piece. Okay, but even when you're doing this, you are going to hit a wall. It's inevitable. You'll give it an instruction you think is small enough, and it will just spit back total garbage or get stuck in some crazy loop. This is the exact moment where almost everyone gives up. So, what's the trick to getting through it? And here it is. This is the big breakthrough. When the AI gets stuck, it's not actually failing you, it's giving you feedback. It's sending you a crystal clear signal that says, hey, that last instruction you gave me, it was too big. It had more than one job hidden inside it. This isn't a dead end, you guys. It's a course correction. So what's the playbook for when you get that signal? It's a simple 4-step process. First step, stop. Cold. Don't try to fix the broken code. Just stop. Step 2, redefine. Take a breath and ask yourself, what was I really trying to do here? Step 3, and this is the magic step, shrink. Ask, what is the absolute tiniest, most microscopic piece of this that I can ask for? And finally, step 4, give the new, smaller instruction. That's it. This whole thing can be summed up as the art of stopping. It feels so counterintuitive, right? In a world that's all about moving faster, the most powerful skill in vibe coding is actually knowing when to slam on the brakes, reassess, and shrink your request. It's the secret to moving fast by going slow. So let's go all the way back to that $1 million game. How did Peter Levels really do it? It wasn't some magical, perfect prompt. No way. It was a painstaking process of hundreds, maybe even thousands, of tiny, clear instructions, one after the other. He was a master of stopping, redefining his goal, and shrinking the task until it was the perfect, bite-sized job for his AI. And that is the real secret. This is how winners are building with AI right now. It isn't about having the flashiest idea or the smartest prompt. It's about discipline. It's the discipline to break your big idea down to its smallest possible parts and then build it, piece by tiny piece. It's a marathon made up of hundreds of little sprints. Which all leads to this really powerful conclusion. In this new world, the most valuable skill isn't actually writing lines of code anymore. It's knowing how to delegate the work. You don't have to be the one hammering the nails. You need to be the architect, the project manager. You need to be the one calling the shots. That's right. You need to be the director. Your job is to hold the vision and to guide your tireless junior developer, the AI, with the clear, steady stream of perfectly small instructions. It's a total shift in identity, and it's so empowering because you are the one in control. So let's wrap up with this question. Right now, the AI is ready. It's just sitting there waiting for your instructions. Now that you know the secret, what is the very first, tiniest, most ridiculously small thing you are going to tell it to do to start building your next great idea? So you've probably heard this term floating around, vibe coding. It sounds kind of magical, right? This idea that you can just turn your thoughts directly into software simply by describing what you want. It's an amazing promise for sure, but what does it actually take to make it work? Let's get into it. And this quote from Andre Karpathy, man, it just hits the nail on the head. The hottest new programming language is English. Wow. I mean, that's the whole dream, isn't it? A future where you don't have to worry about complex syntax or missing semicolons. You just talk. Okay, but let's be real. If you've actually tried this, your reality might look a little different. The dream of building at 10x speed crashes right into a wall of fragile code that breaks the second you look at it funny. You want it to forget code exists, but now you're just stuck in an endless loop of confusing errors. Does any of this sound familiar? It is so frustrating, and it really makes you ask the question, if this AI is supposed to be so incredibly smart, what are we doing wrong? Is this whole idea just a fantasy? Well, it turns out there's a huge mistake that almost everyone is making. It's the core reason why our brilliant ideas turn into these broken, brittle pieces of code.
And it all comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of how we're supposed to be communicating with the AI. Okay, look at the slide because this is so important. We're giving the AI a user requirement. We're telling it what we want. Hey, I need a sign-up feature. But what the AI really needs, just like a human developer, by the way, is a developer instruction, a clear step-by-step guide on how to build it. When we're vague, the AI has to guess. And guessing, well, that's where everything falls apart.
And this quote just nails it. The problem isn't the AI's intelligence, it's that our instructions are not in what the source calls development units, these small, bite-sized, self-contained tasks. See, the AI doesn't need a planner, it needs a builder with a really clear blueprint.
So, okay, how do we fix our instructions? Well, it all starts with a huge mindset shift. And that brings us to the first skill you absolutely have to learn, the art of finishing. It sounds a little backward, but honestly, the most important step is just knowing when to stop.
Because here's the thing. When you're working with an AI partner, your biggest enemy isn't some tricky bug in the code. It's the temptation to make everything perfect right out of the gate. Chasing perfection on version 1 is a guaranteed recipe for never finishing anything. So, how do you know when it's good enough to move on? You can actually watch for some specific signals. You'll start to notice you're repeating the same kind of prompts. Breaking features down into smaller pieces starts to feel natural. You just instinctively know what to cut when you get stuck. These are the signs that you're mastering the process, not just the tech, and that's way more valuable. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. Finishing isn't about perfection, it's a discipline. It's having the courage to look at your work and say, you know what, this is good enough for now, it's time to move on. That mindset is the difference between a project that ships and one that just sits on your hard drive forever. Okay, so you've mastered the art of finishing. That's huge, but what's next? You have to make that success something you can count on. And that's the next level, building a system. This is how you turn a one-time win into a repeatable habit. Because vibe coding, it's not some mystical feeling you hope to catch like lightning in a bottle. It's a habit. It's a methodical, disciplined approach that you can lean on every single time, especially on those days where you're just not feeling it. And here is a fantastic, super practical routine you can use anytime you get stuck. First, just stop. Summarize what's actually working so far. Second, define the very next step in a single sentence. And third, this is the secret sauce, shrink that scope one more time. This little routine isn't for the AI, it's for you. It's how you get your clarity and your momentum back. Now, I know what a lot of people think. Okay, I should be saving all my perfect prompts, right? Like a little library of magic spells. It really feels like that's the valuable asset you're creating. But is it? Nope. The prompt itself is disposable. It's temporary because it's tied to a very specific context. Your real asset, the thing you should be focused on developing, is your personal system for breaking down a problem and creating a good prompt. That skill is something you can take to any project with any AI. So what does a system even look like? Don't worry, it doesn't have to be some complicated flowchart. It could be as simple as a personal pre-prompt checklist, or a habit of taking one note after each project. What was my most effective instruction style this time? And crucially, it's about developing the wisdom to know when a task isn't even a good fit for the AI in the first place. So when we put all of this together, we can finally understand the true vibe in vibe coding. And it turns out, it's not magic at all. It's management. The real skill has shifted. It's not about the technical ability to type code anymore. It's a strategic skill. It's about direction, about breaking down complexity, and about managing a powerful tool. The real work is happening in your mind long before your fingers ever touch the keyboard. And this quote right here is the ultimate takeaway. When all the prompts and all the technology inevitably change, what's left? What remains is your intuitive sense of how to delegate work effectively. That is the core skill you're actually building. So your role is fundamentally changing. You're not just the builder anymore, hammering out code line by line. You're now the architect, the project manager, the director. So the real question is, are you ready to step into that role and lead?